everyone to the official kickoff of this year's Moments of Momentum podcast. I have with me Dan Rooney, owner of Cowan Robards, and today we're going to be chatting a little bit about the history and what his operations entail. Cowan Robards was opened in 1872 when the Robards brothers walked from Michigan wanted to go from Michigan to California, but took a detour in Alexandria because their feet were getting sore. And next thing you know, they make some connections with the Cowans, and therefore Cowan Robards is now in business. Dan is a former member of DECA. He's a DECA alumni. And if you were to stroll through Alexandria's downtown, you might notice things like Piccoli or the Maritime and Runestone Museum. The one thing that you cannot miss is Cowan Robards. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Rooney.
Welcome,
Dan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure, anytime.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about your operations. What's the job entail? What's your day-to-day look like? Working.
My day-to-day, we are currently in the screen printing and embroidery and trophy and award and sporting goods industries. So we have at the time 33 employees right now. I would say 90% of my time is dealing with employee relations in the store. Mm-hmm. We have production and we have sales and we have retail and we have manufacturing.
Nice.
So we have a little mix of almost every dynamic when it comes to employees. Mm-hmm. So I do spend most of my time being with our employees, talking about what they're doing, what's going on, looking at goals for our sales team, looking at production efficiencies for our production areas, our manufacturing part, and then is our presentation in an outwardly appearance suiting for the retail industry.
Mm-hmm. Right. Good market research,
Yep.
Making sure that you stay on top of trends,
Yep.
and making sure that you stay on top of operations. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Cowan Robards, since you said you've been running operations for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
So what was the business like? Tell me a little brief history about that.
Brief history of the company is we were a hardware store for 100 years. The company's 149 years old. So we were a hardware store in downtown Alexandria as downtown Alexandria was settling, becoming a resort community. Mm-hmm. From the resort community, we moved into the sporting goods category in the store. The hardware industry was part of the development of our community. That was the need that the community had. The competition increased greatly in the hardware store to a point where there were at one point 5 hardware stores downtown Alexandria. Mm-hmm. And so we wound up competing against them. As I was a young man in Alexandria, my father ran the company. So I was able to watch and see how he was reacting to things changing in our community. Mm-hmm. So we went from a very, very strong tourism-based community to the introduction of significant manufacturing, to the hospital, to the bigger schools. So the dynamics of the town was changing in terms of the viability of a hardware store. Mm-hmm. In the mid-'80s, the hardware store era was coming to an end, and it didn't appear as though there was any future for Cowan Robards in downtown Alexandria. Mm-hmm. At that time, my new wife and I were looking for other opportunities. We were given an opportunity by my dad to come back and start our embroidery and screen printing business. I researched it in the cities as I was away for many years. We researched that, came back in, made an investment in equipment, and we started that end of things. Mm-hmm. I've been doing that now for 29 years in the store. Running the store for about 10, as my father's 86 years old. I still see him every day. He's a mentor to me. We have great conversations about how things are going. He brings his historical piece to the table. I try to bring the new piece to the table about what's going on in our community.
That's very
And then
cool.
Between the two of us, we kind of can formulate a little roadmap of what we think the next 5 years could look like. Mm-hmm. We don't go a whole lot farther than 5 years. COVID taught us that we really shouldn't go farther than 1 year, because you never know. We had a fire downtown that was right on our building. We had some really, really aggressive changing events that kind of modified what we do. Mm-hmm. So I took the company, good or bad, from 44 employees down to 7, and then we've rebuilt now in the last 18 months.
Wow.
And now we're back to 33, and we're doing the same amount of business with 33 employees that we were doing with 44. So if there was one word that's to be used there, it's called efficiency.
Yep.
We changed our efficiency.
Yep.
And now because of us changing our efficiency, we're able to have a stronger workforce in what we're doing. There's a greater sense of loyalty and trust and all the things that are inside the company right now. So as I sit here today, gently, things are okay.
Well, you know what they say, quality over quantity, am I right?
Yes, very true.
So Dan, at some point in our lives, we all, there's an occasion, there's something that makes us decide our career path.
Sure.
What was that for you?
I think it was probably, oddly enough, tone of voice, attitude, and ease of conversation. And that, strangely enough, took place in 3rd grade. When for some reason the teacher thought I would be the right person to sell beanie hats to the classmates in 3rd grade.
Yep.
I started truly working a career at 15 years old.
Wow.
And that career was in sales, and that sales led me to do events. So I coordinated a running race when I was 15 years old, which means I had to deal with the police department, the sheriff's department, the city of Alexandria itself, our Chamber of Commerce, and then I had to rally volunteers to go out and help the course. And I did this when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
So it was nothing more than just the fun of saying, hey, come play with me for a while. We've got this thing going on.
Of course. Yeah.
And so
Well, that's pretty cool.
early on, it was kind of a path, and I wasn't a very good student as students go. I wanted to play more than I wanted to work.
As we do, all of us do.
So I figured, how can I do both? Well,
Yeah.
the sales end of it was pretty good, and then when I went to the cities, I worked at Best Buy for 6 years. I sold home security systems for about 4, and I spent a little bit of time in Chicago with the Anheuser-Busch Company. But all of those things, all of them, were in a sales capacity.
Nice.
In a team building type of mode. Yep.
Nice. Well, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's what they say is so balance is also a very big skill in life, and by the sounds of it, you balance things out. You worked hard and you played hard, and that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So apart from the what, now that we know that, why? What's your purpose? What drives you? What gets you up in the morning? What we have the what, the how, and the why is at the core of most business purposes. For example, Apple sells innovative products that change people's lives because it's what they do.
Yep.
So that is their why. What would you say your why is?
Fair question.
And it doesn't have to be as
I would
intricate as-
say, realistically, for where we are in the company that we have, my why would be to continue to have Alexandria's downtown exist.
That's very
And
cool.
it has to evolve, it has to change. If it doesn't change, it will die. And I get a kick out of being part of that. Whether it's the longevity of our downtown, the legacy of the Colin Robards name, those things are things that matter to me, and they're important. And it seems like a sensible thing.
Yeah, that is an honest endeavor.
Yeah.
So if you could tell any prospective business owner watching right now a tip on how to tap into that potential, what would you say?
For me, that actually is relatively easy. It's all about people and relationships.
People and relationships.
There can be no other business that can work without people and relationships. And it has to be that way. So who are the people that you're gonna have relationships with? And then figure out who they are, and then figure out if it's worth having a relationship with them. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a law enforcement official, whether it's a construction engineer, it doesn't make any difference. Is who do you want to have relationships with, and how do you want to serve them? Not them serve you, How can we serve each other?
That is actually a really good point that you bring up. Over the summer, I read a book called The Go-Giver, and one of it's a book, it's a kind of a corny story, but the value of the story basically, you know, it talks about your net worth is, or not, your worth is what you give in return over what you get paid.
Yeah.
That is to say, how above and beyond do you, like, how far do you go to really serve, you know, the people that you're working with? And if you look out for, you know, people's interest, they will in turn do the same for you. Everyone has to carry their own weight, but when you have, you know, a good network, anything in life can be 80% people skills and 20% technical skills. So that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
I don't bring a whole lot of technical skills to the table whatsoever. What I do like to do is get people interested and motivated and excited.
Yes.
And then with that, now we can start working on trust, and the relationship that we have is going to be dealing with loyalty and dealing with sincerity and enthusiasm. So I use a lot of fancy big words there for nothing more than it's all about getting people together.
Well, without enthusiasm, how would you really, you know, keep operations going? You got to keep your employees and excited, ready to go. You got to treat them good, because in turn, then they will treat the customers good. They'll give back. And I think, that's a really good point.
And it's challenging right now with the coming off of COVID right now. People's interests have changed.
Oh yeah.
And
100%.
what motivates someone, I was just talking to a couple of our gals about that this morning. I said, what motivates them to get up out of bed to go to work every day? It's hard enough to get up out of bed to do anything. Now, we're gonna get up out of bed to go to work. What excites a person about doing that? And both the people said, well, they just want to be appreciated.
Yep.
And it seems right now, the shift that I'm recognizing right now is more about appreciation than it is about compensation. Compensation is still an important piece of it.
Right.
But in our little tiny world here in Alexandria, Minnesota, recognition of a job well done and pride in what you do is still winning right now at Cowan Robards.
100%, I agree.
And so then if you get that, now you've got your loyalty and you've got your willingness to go that extra mile. Flexible schedules a piece, fair compensation's a piece, but right now it seems like appreciation is a big word right now.
Yeah, no, I've worked some jobs where management doesn't seem like part of the team.
Right on.
And I didn't stay at those jobs for too long.
And it seems like, and I don't know, again, I don't know a whole lot of world outside of our town, but it seems like the larger the corporation is, the less feel goods you get on a day-to-day basis.
Yep, it's all about compensation.
Yes.
And
our girl who started Tastefully Simple in town, Jill Blashak, and I are very good friends. She's the most enthusiastic human being I've ever met in my life, and she started her company with enthusiasm.
Well, you know, leading
and
a company,
thank yous, and wow, you did great. Let's do something else.
Leading a company, like you said, it's a people job. 100%.
For sure it is.
People job.
Absolutely. Yep.
So moving forward, in the past decade, as we know, the world has been turned on its head with the housing crisis and COVID, and more specifically, the unfortunate fire downtown, which claimed some businesses. As a business owner, you carry all the liability. You accrue some of the benefits, but not all of them. Are there any lessons or consequences that have not only shaped your business or leadership style, but the business itself?
I'd say we have to slow down, pay attention to what's going on around us. We don't need to go off in a really fast direction anyway. We have to go off in a thorough direction. When it comes to the fire, the building literally right next to us was on fire. The flames were on our building. I stood out in the parking lot that day for the whole day looking at it going, this is the end of it. It's gonna end right here, right now. And it didn't. And even if our building had burnt down, there would have still been enough motivation and excitement to rebuild it and start over.
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, I saw no future. I saw no hope. It was running out. The fire was right there. It was going to end.
I couldn't imagine.
And within 6 to 7 hours after we were cleared to go back in our building, I thought, you know what, even if this building would have went down, it took me that amount of time to come to terms with the fact that we could rebuild, because that was gonna be an option. We could relocate, because that would be an option. We could do a few different things that actually would make us better than we are right now, had the fire taken it. Now it didn't, so we reacted and that was fine. But to me, it's how do you react? That's probably more of it than anything.
Yep.
How do you react to COVID? How do you react to the building crisis? How do you react to the fire? How do you do that?
And I think that the point you brought up where, planning 5 years ahead is important, but at the same time, you gotta maintain a 1-year plan as well, because anything can happen tomorrow. And, thankfully it was contained. I actually see it in downtown Charlie's Bazaar is being rebuilt now. So
one is being rebuilt.
Rebuilding.
Yes, absolutely. And there's conversation about the corner too, so there's new opportunities coming.
Exactly. Growth where something ended.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
But that's a lot of the things too. I mean, we were in the gun business. We're not in the gun business anymore. There was an opportunity, then there wasn't an opportunity. That's all it was. It wasn't anything that we did wrong or somebody else did better. It was just opportunities. Our community changed. My dad is very good at saying, pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to what's going on with your churches, with your schools, with your medical profession, with your industry, with your resorts, with your community at large. Pay attention and see if there's opportunities in those places you're paying attention in.
Yes, 100%. You never know when, you never know what an opportunity could flourish into. 100%.
Right.
It's good to keep your options open, and that goes back to the whole, networking thing and appreciation is. People are gonna want to do business with someone that truly appreciates them and truly wants to get, not a buck out of it.
Right.
They want, the relationship aspect, and I think that goes really far for sure in saying that you can't be profits driven if you truly want, to have a business flourish. You have to be enthusiastic about it, and you have to appreciate your people because it all comes down to people, 100%.
Yeah.
But knowing how everything has impacted your place of work with COVID, and unfortunately, I understand that there was some damage done because of the fire. So knowing how all these things have impacted you, if you could go back and do something differently, what would it be?
That's a really hard one to answer, only because what we did is what we thought was right at the time. So, did we make mistakes? Maybe, but I'm not sure I know what they are, because we did what we felt we had to do in order to survive. So could I say I would go back and I would change things? As I sit here today, I don't know what I would change, because the decisions that we made at the time were decisions that were dealt with in a sensible, thoughtful, thought-out pattern. Were they perfect? No. Did we stay in business? Yes. The biggest thing for me is if we stayed in business in whatever fashion it was, that was enough.
Yep.
And then rebuilding, although challenging, is nothing more than that. It's rebuilding.
It's another obstacle.
It's just so.
Adventure of the.
I don't know that I can go back and say that I wish we would have done it this way, because the way we did it was the way at the time that we felt was the best way to do it. Somebody else could come in and say, you should have done it this way, or you did it, I would have done it this way. Great. But we didn't, we just made the decision based on what we had, and we just went from there.
Nice.
So it's not right or wrong, it's just a decision.
And I think that's a good point, because, running a business, you can't cry over spilled milk. You have to take every day as it comes, and like you said, rebuilding would just be another thing, another obstacle that, since 1872, like we said, Colin Robert has been a pillar of this community, so there's no stopping. There is.
And so many people are afraid of making changes. If changes are made with thought and consideration, they're good. There was a period of time, there was a business downtown called Bob's Clothes Shop. Bob's Clothes Shop was a men's clothing store that sold formal and fashionable men's clothing. The owners of that, who I knew very well, because they were right next to us, the owners of that said, men are always going to wear suits and ties, men are always going to have dress pants, men are always going to do this, men are always going to need a tie or a sport coat. That's not true.
No, 100% not.
That business isn't there.
Because they didn't adapt.
They didn't change, they weren't willing to change, they weren't willing to look at what the new trends were, they kept their eyes on a suit and tied male, and that's all they saw. And when that was ending, they didn't know what they did wrong.
They, you gotta look past your nose a little bit.
A little bit. So again, pay attention to what's going on around you, pay attention to your world that you live in.
And we all fall victim to tunnel vision. We all do.
So
it's what we
bad.
know. It's what
right.
we know, and we can only do what we think is right. It's
you just do the best you can with what you have, and you hope it's good enough.
and that's the nature of the world. We're taught one world growing up, and by the time we get to running a business or working somewhere in the actual field, the world's different. World's different.
And it's changing so much faster than it has because of information. And now the information is getting to us either correctly or incorrectly, but it's getting to us. So we're constantly being bombarded. So now we come back to the trail of, who do I go to? Who do I talk to? Who do I trust? Who can I confide in? Who can I go to? It's rocked the church world, it's rocked the business world. All of the information that's came out is all of a sudden it's like, well, gee, I don't have any place or anybody that I can go to trust or to say, hey, help me with this decision. Let's talk about this for a while. What do you think?
100%. So knowing that, how trying the times have been, what are some as an employer, you can only handle so many of the operations, right? You're only part of a whole. So what qualities have stood out, not as a management, from the management perspective, but now talking about employees, what qualities have stood out that have helped propel the business forward during, not just recent times, but other times of uncertainty?
The people that we called back after we laid everybody off for COVID came back in a very methodical fashion. And in our world, it was who can do the most, and then who can do the most the best. And then we started calling them back that way. So, who can do the most? All right, that's fine. So I can go really fast, or whatever it is. The next piece that's really, really critical there is who can I trust? And so longevity builds trust, because longevity builds trust, which then creates a relationship, which then creates integrity, and you now have something that you can grab a hold of and say, okay, look, I can't do all this. Can you please help me with this category? And then I'll take that person and say, look at Joe Marie, who's a fine person that works at our company. She's been there for almost 30 years. I said, Joe, you were doing this. I need you to do that, but I also need you to do this over here. Can you handle that now? And she said, let me try. I said, great, I'm gonna let you try. And I'm gonna stay out of your way. And I trusted her to do it, stayed out of her way. When she got overwhelmed, she came back to me and she says, I'm completely overwhelmed and I'm losing it. Okay, let's get you some help. And we did.
Autonomy is a big factor too, and making employees feel not just appreciated, but keeping the job fresh, because some job, I've worked very McDonald's or like Burger King when I was in high school, and the jobs were very automated. So giving employees autonomy to figure something out, a new task, and then giving them the ability to be open and say, hey, you know what, I need some help. I think that for sure that speaks a lot, not just about your management style, but the way that your employees and the qualities that they're bringing to the table. Honesty, reliability, and overall, that is contributing to longevity. That's it.
The integrity of our employees is a big deal too, because we don't have, and we all have had, and I've had many examples of where I just didn't trust someone. Everything just didn't feel quite right. They weren't showing a high level of integrity when they were representing their product to me. It just didn't feel right. And it happens all the time. The people that we have at the store that have gotten a long-term commitment have recognized that as the company, because it's an old historic company. Integrity has always been our way. We typically will give someone the benefit rather than creating a disagreement. We're the ones that are gonna take the hit more so than somebody else.
Of course.
We will own the problem before somebody else will, and then we try to resolve the problem with whoever it is that we're dealing with, whether it's a customer. But in the world of the whole thing, my dad is always one, and I'm gonna die with the word fair in my head, because being fair with one another is all we need to do.
Fair as in August.
It's
No,
all we need to do.
I am.
But it's in everything that we do.
Yes.
If all we do is treat each other fairly, we're gonna have a great time together.
Exactly. And then, fair is, we're on equal levels. Equal levels. No one is looking down on
Nope.
the other. And
Nope.
I think that,
We can solve so many problems by saying, let's just be fair with one another.
yeah.
Let's just do that. Let's just that
Exactly.
one simple thing. Let's just be fair with one another. And we'll come, you come, we'll get a resolution, we're gonna go about it, and we're more than likely gonna go about it with a smile on our face.
Exactly. There's no need for pitchforks and
Nope.
and torches.
No.
So I know we touched on, anything that you might have done differently in the past, but now what I'm wondering is if you could speak to yourself as a younger version, what's some advice you would give yourself? And don't limit it. There's not like, I'm not saying one piece of advice. What do you think what advice could you have used in growing your career? And not just you, but any of our viewers right now. What is something that you really want to stick with them?
Do as much as you can when you're young. Do as much as you possibly can, whether it's jobs. To tell somebody who's in their 20s that this is gonna be their last job they'll ever have is crazy this time of year. It's been crazy for 10 years. It was a reality back in the 40s and 50s that a 20-year-old was gonna have their career laid out in front of them at that point. No, it's not true. Have fun, see the world, roam around a little bit. You're gonna find pockets of people that you like, that you don't like, that you don't wanna be part of, that you wanna be part of, and then see if there's a career opportunity in it. If the education that you're getting is giving you a career opportunity, take that career opportunity and go roam a little bit with it. And don't allow yourself to be anchored to somewhere until your head says, this is where I wanna be.
Don't jump the gun, basically.
And I wanna be somewhere where I want to enjoy being outside. I want to be somewhere where I want to enjoy all of the things that are part of that community. People, it's so funny with Alexandria, because it's tough in the winter. In the middle of February, it is not a fun place to be.
Oh,
Okay?
I've been there.
I don't mind it. I live here. I kind of like the middle of February because things are different.
Yeah.
They are definitely different than they are in the middle of July. But it's that change that keeps things fresh.
Right.
You are going to endure to persevere. And your endurance sometimes is going to be rewarded with a day like today where it's absolutely beautiful outside.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect temperature, beautiful leaves. This is it. We get this few times to go outside and go, wow, is this ever nice? Enjoy that. Enjoy it and don't ever stop enjoying it.
Take in the moment.
Absolutely.
Take in the moment and don't rush.
No.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, me and Dan Rooney will be at Innovation Summit. Hope to see you all there. He will be. What are you presenting about at Innovation?
I'm presenting about the challenge with employees right now.
Oh, okay, nice.
And the tough one is there's a challenge out there because we have a real strong problem right now with the workforce. So this is a 2-day event. The workforce scenario right now has got a problem. I'm looking for solutions. I'm going to be asking advice of the people that we're at our roundtable conversations with because we need help right now coming up with solutions to the current problem with retaining and getting employees that we can afford, that we can work together. I've got about 10 questions and I guarantee I won't be talking much because it's gonna be all about our next generation of marketing, business, and accounting people to help us look at the future.
Don't even get me started
I-
on the unemployment. Right now, it's crazy.
It's probably the hottest topic in the nation right now.
Oh yeah.
What are we
100%.
supposed to do?
Yep.
So as an employee, how do you look at it? As an employer, how do you think about it? So I'm part of the roundtable discussion, and I believe I'll be judging some events stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yep.
it'll be fun.
I believe we'll be judging them right along with you
Good,
if the
yeah.
schedule's correctly.
Good.
Dan, thank you so much for
Yes.
taking the time
Yes.
to speak with me
Yes.
and, give some value, give some insight.
Yep.
I know for sure I'm gonna be walking away from this with some tips, to propel my career forward.
Good.
I hope some of our viewers find it also of value.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dan.
My pleasure. My pleasure.